Hey guys, hello, good evening again. Let's try this one more time. Having some signal issues here. So sorry I had to bump off, came back, and we'll see how things go. As I was stating, and I'll pick up and just restart. What we're talking about tonight is intent. The reason I'm talking about intent is something I haven't heard anybody else discuss, but it's very important for you, and particularly in a court case. And not only that, but in your life, what is it and how do you intend to live? I know most of us, when we went to school, we were taught the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag, and we believed in it. We believed in America, and we believed that police were good, and they were way back when. You always had a bad apple here or there or whatever, but basically we didn't have the problems that we had today. And it's on both sides of the fence as far as that goes. But the thing is, and what I was talking about was Larry Becraft and Tom Cryer's legal case that they won in court, evidencing, and I think you should know this, that you are not liable, and this isn't a tax thing or, discussion or debate or protest or any of that mess, but the law pointed out in his case that he won evidences that you are not liable for taxes on your labor. And I won't get into the other discussion. There's a letter out there that actually verifies that. And if you write in, I think it's a 1040X form to the IRS and tell them that you know the law or whatever, then they're supposed to refund you all of the money that you've ever paid into the IRS. Because again, you cannot be taxed on your labor. So anyway, the thing is, what do you intend? And I want to divide this in two parts. One is, what do you or we as individuals, and remember the individual is the sovereign, and the sovereign always decrees. So start learning this if you would. It'll serve you well in the future. But what is it that you intend? Did you ever intend to be a citizen? Everybody says, hey, you're a citizen, and you're told you're a citizen. You kind of think that being a citizen is a good thing, not being a citizen is a bad thing. You are told that you have rights as a citizen, but that's a lie. If you read the law, it tells you that you only have privileges and immunities, but above all things, you have duties that are ascribed to you. One of those duties is to pay this $22 trillion debt. So as soon as your baby is born, they get slapped with a bill and they just got born. And they're just sucking off their mama's tit, to be quite frank, at that point. And they're already $40,000 to $80,000 in the hole, if not more than that by now. So did you ever intend to enslave yourself? And the reason I say that is the law states that a U.S. citizen is a subject of a state. So if you're a subject, does that make you think about England? England has a queen and they have a king at times or whatever. And all people are the subjects of the queen in this particular case. And they have to serve the queen and serve her to her will or her fancy or whatever it is. And the queen can come down and command you to whatever the queen wants you to do. Did you ever intend, or were you ever told that you were the subject of a state? Let's say the state of ABC. All right, so you're born there, you're raised there, you're taught that you had rights, you said the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. Later on, you find out as you turn 18, you say, hey, I'm a citizen, I ran down, got my social security number that I'm told in order that I have to have. And I want to bring that up on intent as well, on the government side. But you went down there because you intended to do the right things. You're doing exactly what you were told, not committing any fraud or anything else. On the other hand, in the flip side, thank you, Paulina, for stepping in. You too, Terry. On the flip side, what is the intention? What has been the intention of the government? Not to get into the discussion that the government is not no longer a government, but all corporations, which are totally unlawful. But the intent of the government has been a fraud against the American people based on coercion, threats, intimidation, force, and even killing people. I hate to say that, but that happens to be the truth. Did you intend or ever intend and plan on living a life where you were the subject of another, where you were threatened or coerced into doing everything that you have to do? For example, the big thing these days, they started pushing, hey, these little tiny houses are really cool. And people go, wow, I can save money if I get a tiny house. Now, the prices on those have gone astronomical and stupid and crazy because real estate prices have gotten so high and so have rents. But then what happened? A lot of people started buying tiny houses. Some of them even dared to put solar panels on there so they wouldn't have to hook up to the state's electricity. All right. And then some people did their own septics and other things. Well, the state did not like that. And a couple of things the state did. Number one, they've already claimed you as their subject. And you, by saying, hey, I are a citizen, and I know that's bad English, but it's intentional. Say, hey, I are a citizen of the state of ABC, and therefore I consent with full knowledge of the law because I know the law, your statutes, which are not law, only color law, but they claim and I want to say claim. Stop. I'm changing myself and correcting myself. Start looking at everything that the government tells you. It's a claim because it's all fraud. So it's really not fact and it's color of law. So they're only making a claim. So what they are claiming is that you are a subject of the state. Your tiny house is the property of the state. They want you to register it. They can tell you what to do. Years ago, probably 10 or 15 years ago, I have some friends downstate Alabama. I think it's about 10 years ago, all of a sudden, they started requiring everybody to now you had to get a sticker for your for your trailer. Before then, you never had to have any stickers. And someone posted today a good phrase, and it came out of Marx's book, I think it said it was. And basically all it said was, if you take away one right per generation, which they're doing more than that, then after a while, the new generations, they don't know that there were any rights because they're all gone. And right now we are at a point where the state claims everything, all power and authority over the people. That's not what the Constitution says. So the state further comes in and your judges, your despotic judges, who are not even judges anymore. They are administrators. That's all they are. They're court administrators in commerce. And that's why they've shifted everything about crimes are in commerce. So anyway, what is the intent? The intent of the American people is stand up for their rights, stand up for their family. Most of the American people believe in God, however that comes around, or whatever, or whomever God is, and they have a lot of faith. And the government attacks the American people time and time again. So where is the intent? This is what I want to get out. Most of the time, and we're not all perfect or far from it, but our intent has been good and solid in our faith, not only in God, but in our country and in our laws. Now we've got a government that's so despotic it doesn't even adhere to the laws anymore. Not only that, for generations at this point, it has been taken away the natural and unalienable rights of the people. The law tells you that your rights are such that you cannot even give them away. So I ask you this, if the law says that you are the sovereign and you have all your natural and unalienable rights that pre-existed any government, and that those rights are so firm and belong to you to the extent you cannot even give them away if you want to, how can there ever be any power and authority for a government entity that was created by the people to come away and take away those same rights? It can't be done. So when they lie to you, and it doesn't matter if it's the president or a state legislature, your city council, your county commissioners, or whomever, it doesn't matter who it is. Your county sheriff, we have a few that are constitutional and go by the law and defend the Constitution. Not many of them, but if we're lucky, we've got 10 to 15%. The police, they're just out there because the police belong to the state and they do whatever the state tells them. They couldn't care less about the people as long as they get their little bonuses. And that's my opinion, but it also seems to be evident as well. So anyway, it's all fraud against the American people. And that's why I stand up and do what I'm doing. You know, this morning we talked about Child Protective Services. There are a lot of issues. Lazaro and other people, you know, he's talking about Uranium One, and he brings up many issues every day. And a lot of people are, and you're fighting this fire here, that fire there. Well, this is my focus. If you have a dart and you're going to hit the dartboard, what is the bullseye? Because until you hit that bullseye, all these little forest fires all over the place, they don't matter. Because you've never had the right focus. So the proper focus is the sovereignty of the individual. That's supported by law. It's supported by the Supreme Court. It's evidence in the court cases. And until you understand that, and until you start standing up for your own sovereignty and that of your neighbor, we're sunk. It doesn't matter about, let's see if we get kicked off here saying the Muslim word, okay? So it doesn't matter if you're talking about that or you're talking about other people that are has sexual persuasions this way or that way or what. None of that's going to matter as long as you are not focused on the one thing of who you are. You know who and what you are. You know that you have natural and unalienable rights, and you start standing up for them. The way to do this, as I told you yesterday, is that you have to make your own decrees. You don't go running off like France did. And they were doing a lot of right things and standing up for things. And I wrote a letter to, and did a little broadcast, or tried to, and got it over to Roman Light of France, you know, of the yellow vests. I was going to call them yellow jackets because they have those in the South. But now they're the yellow vests. And I told him that he would serve himself well if he would look at the laws of the United States of America, because even there, Roman was talking about the sovereign individual. He said, we want to stand on our sovereignty. He wasn't claiming it, but in a way he wasn't, because he doesn't believe that he's a sovereign individual. They don't have that concept because they all belong to the president, and you can only do what's within their constitution. Well, in our Constitution, what does it do? It says when the government gets so despotic that you're rioting in the streets like France, for example, and it doesn't even have to get that bad. It is not only your right, but it is the only duty, which isn't what the government tells you, but by law, Declaration of Independence, which is superior to the Constitution and the Ten Commandments, it is your only duty to throw off that despotic entity and establish new guards for your own protection. So, ladies and gentlemen, not only for you, the American people, for my family, but for what I've been telling you time and time again, for all people so similarly situated, I'm trying to get people to focus and take action standing up on the individuality, the sovereign individual, with all of your rights retained, all powers reserved, 9th and 10th Amendment. So what is your intent and what is my intent? Years ago, I looked around, I had a court case, and had a judge that ordered me to do something that I could not do. It wasn't possible. Okay, he said, you either do this or it's going to be 90 days. And what he ordered me to do was against the law if I could have done it. So there was no way. Number one, there was no way to do it. And number two, if it had been done or could have been done, it'd been violating the law. At that point is when I lost a whole lot of respect for judges. I've met some good ones all along the way, like two. One of them gave me a really good education intentionally. He gave me a lot of good clues. A good man, and so was the other one. They actually did their job right, had their oath of office, and were adhering to the Constitution and the law. And that got proved later on when I called them on a couple of things. So anyway, and just so David Jose and some other people know, and it doesn't matter, but it's actually traffic violations, and I'll address those probably at another time. Doesn't matter now. But is the intent of the individual. What is your intent? Do you intend to break the law? Do you understand the law? Most people don't. And there are things I don't understand about it. And maybe I'll get some things incorrect. But everything that I tell you, I have the law to back it up. Just like I said, read down on the bottom. It's why I leave it there. You are the sovereign, and the individual people in America are the sovereigns and always have been. They are and always have been. You will be tomorrow. And remember, those rights cannot be taken away from you. Why do we know that? Because the law says you can't even give them away. So if you can't give them away, how can they be taken from you? So you're totally right by telling the city council and county commissioners, the governor, and even the president to go jam it. All they don't have the law to back them up. They have statutes, which are not law, only color law, and then they've got the force to back that up. So while we're doing these broadcasts, if you walk into a court case, and you've got some individual who's standing up there, they may be arguing law or they may not, but trying to stand up on their natural and unalienable rights to, collect rainwater to build a pond. That is you can't get more natural and unalienable rights than that. You purchased a property the state claims is theirs, okay, which is a fraud and a violation of the constitutional law. But how many of us can afford to go through the whole legal process, pay all these lawyers to come out and say, oh, yeah, that's the law, we were wrong. And by the time that happens and you're broke and destitute and you got to hawk the property anyway. So anyway, a lot of frustration for a lot of Americans. A lot of wrongs have been done for generations. The money's there, and they're in a lot of pockets. And those individuals called persons in their official status as a subject to, remember, these people are subject to you. You are not subject to them. And it is up to your job, my job, each and every one of us, to rule our employees. President Trump has been telling you before he came into office, he wants the people to lead. May not be much of a leader or someone to follow, but I'm laying it straight out as an arrow for you. And I'm telling you things nobody else is going to tell you. The government doesn't want you to know what the law is. And I put the quotes out there so you can read it yourself. And just start with the one at the bottom. And don't just read it. Tell your neighbor, tell your family. If you don't tell everyone in your family that they are the sovereign individuals and that and what the law says, that you are sovereigns without subjects. So you're basically a state unto yourself. The judge could clue me in on that one, by the way. So basically, you are a state unto yourself, but the law says without any subjects. So you are a sovereign without subjects. And that's fine. I have no desire to boss anyone else around or tell them what to do. But I do retain the natural and unalienable rights to self-govern myself. And there are two ways of doing it. You can do it directly or you can do it by representatives. If you do it directly, that's it, guys. You can, if they vote in a tax and you vote against it in a republic, you don't owe that tax. In a democracy, if you choose to have representatives or don't, okay, and a tax is voted in, well, ooh la la, because they say it's, well, they don't even say it's a republic anymore. They call it a democracy. Okay, so, and people go, oh yeah, we got a democracy. And we want everybody else to have a dumb democracy. But anyway, in that particular example, you owe the tax in that particular case, in a democracy anyway. So ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for tuning in tonight. Man, hey girl, hope you're doing well. And we look working with you on the CPS stuff out there in Wisconsin. So maybe you can touch base a little bit later this evening. So anyway, I hope you learned a lot. And again, the topic is intent. And I suggest very, very strongly, look at your own intent. What do you intend for yourself? Did you ever intend to be the subject of another? I don't care who or what that is. A lot of people say they're subject to God, and that's fine. That's their free will and their choice, and that's their belief. And that's what God law says. All right? Did you ever intend to be subject of a government or a city council or any government entity? And how can you be a subject of an entity that you, the people, created? You can't. So it's time for us to right ourselves. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. So give me and other people that are standing up, educating people, standing up for the rights of the individual and the rights of all Americans. And in that doing that, you're standing up for all people so similarly situated. As our founding fathers said, they were established, the laws and everything they established, created for America, were created for all of mankind. So that includes France, New Zealand, Brazil, but they have to choose to adhere to the law or accept it as their own. They may change it or modify it or whatever, but it's probably like the Bible, the Ten Commandments, whether you believe in God or not. Those are good, solid laws and principles to follow. And there are most of what our founding fathers accomplished and wrote down in law and the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, and the Ten Commandments are really good, solid laws and principles and foundations for most people to live by. And that's one reason, I hate to say it, but the Democrats and a lot of people are hitting President Trump so hard. And at the same time, they're hitting you and I, depending on what your faith is, the color of your skin, and all kinds of crazy stuff. They're just stomping and beating up on the people that are trying to give some leadership, show direction. And the bottom line is we're just trying to do what's right, and what is lawful. And lawful is not legal. Legal is color of law, something created by legal fictions that don't even exist. Your city council, federal government, states, and everything else. So anyway, God bless you all. Thank you for tuning in. And again, teach all your family members. If you do nothing else this week, take 3 to 5 people. Learn this law. It is the individual who is a sovereign and always has been. And explain to them what sovereignty is. And the law states it's not your city, county, state, or federal government. It is each one of us individually. So God bless you and have a good evening. Thank you for tuning in to Sovereign People's Broadcast. Good night.